So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Thursday, September 9th. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact Thursday, September 9th here today. Coming off another night in baseball last night, the Yankees and Mets both take yet again some tough losses. Yankees lose to the Toronto Blue Jays again, and the New York Mets fall to the Miami Marlins. But the big story is today there is NFL football game on, and it really is super exciting. There is going to be an NFL football game on tonight that will count. It will kick off the 2021 NFL season as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys, the defending world champions and America's team. We all know how everybody feels about the Dallas Cowboys. They're not very liked. America's team, Jerry Jones, Dak Prescott's return. Not even just a very good matchup. I actually think it's going to be a close game. I'm not going to reveal my game pick yet. I do think it's actually going to be a close game. I just think these two teams, it's, not even just the fact that I think it's going to be a close game. I just think the story, defending champions, Tom Brady, Buccaneers versus the Cowboys, Dak returns. We all know the Cowboys are not a very liked team in any sport. Not just are they not liked in football, throughout sports. I think a lot of fans are not a big fan of the Cowboys and aren't a huge fan of, Jerry Jones and all that, what they got working with over there. So this matchup is just, not even just is a good matchup, it just in terms of storylines and Brady and the Bucs and all that stuff. So that all will go on tonight. Super excited about that. Should be really exciting. That will kick off a full weekend of football because you got tonight and then Sunday and then Monday and then you get to, then you get going throughout the rest of the season and week 2, week 3, and so on and so forth. And, it's always the first game that's always exciting. I've always said this, even though, the Jets aren't playing tonight or anything like that, it's always super exciting. And, even though I got to wait till Sunday to watch the Jets, it's always exciting whenever the first game gets under your belt and whenever you get going. So, definitely going to be ready for that. Good game on tonight. As for last night, though, Yankees take yet again another tough loss. Just not getting in the big hit. And I gotta be completely fair with you last night. The Yankees did, in all fairness, they had, first and third, 2 outs or whatever, and Gardner hit the 3-run home run. So we did get those runs in, and I guess you can kind of say our bullpen, in a way, kind of blew it, letting up a run in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. So we let up one run in each of the final 3 innings. So I guess you can kind of say our bullpen blew it a little bit. It was tied 3-3, and, you go into the 7th, you allow a run, 8th, you allow a run, 9th, you allow a run. I've always said this, runs late in the games are going to hurt you the most. The Blue Jays had 3 runs in the 4th inning. Yankees were able to bounce back. They put up 3 of their own in the bottom of the 5th. And it's like, as much as the Yankees were able to make the comeback and stuff, runs late in the game against you hurt you the most. I don't care how good your offense is. I don't care how many guys you got on whoever's on your team. Late game runs hurt the most. And when you allow 3 runs in the final 7 innings, or the final 3 innings, 1 in each of those innings, 7th, 8th, and 9th, it's going to be tough. So, tough loss for the Yankees. Once again, back to my point yesterday. We had 7 hits. It's not like we had 2 hits and scored 3 runs, and, it's not like we had 2 hits and, Gardner got 1 of those and maybe there was another single. We had 7 hits, and guess what? The Blue Jays had 7 hits as well. So, it's just not getting that big hit. It's just getting a lot of hits, just not getting runners home. That's what's it with the New York Yankees. It's not that we're not hitting, because guess what? We had 7 hits. And guess how many Blue Jays had? 7 hits. Who won the game? Blue Jays. Who scored more runs? Who had 6 runs? Blue Jays. They had 7 hits. Not like the Blue Jays blew us away last night with 13 hits. They had 7, and so did the Yankees. But the Blue Jays get the bigger hit when it matters, and that's how it is. So Yankees, tough loss. Pretty much the same storyline as yesterday. Pretty much same story as yesterday. stands for today, because you're not able to get the big hit. You're not able to get, those big hits in big situations. Gardner did get it. All fairness to Gardner, he did. Nice home run. That was a pretty long home run too, but not able to get the job done. And the Marlins defeat the Mets as well. Mets got shut down. I said that yesterday. Sandy Alcantara has had a great year this year for the Marlins. He went up against the Yankees. It was the series. It was Gallo and Rizzo's first series with the Yankees. I think it might have been Gallo's third game and Rizzo's is maybe his third game, and it was their first series with the team. And I remember I believe it was the third game, we were going for the sweep, and Alcantara was out there and he shut us down. We did win the game, but Alcantara, he put through 7 innings and struck out 10, and we didn't score a run off of him. We ended up scoring, I think, runs against their bullpen. I was able to get the job done. So, which we were able to get the job done against. So, Alcantara is a very good pitcher, I said yesterday. Very underrated pitcher, too. In Marlins, small organization, not a very good team, not getting much notice. The Marlins have a lot of good young talent that not much people talk about. I think Jazz Chisholm's a really young, good player. Jesus Aguilar, he's not really young, but he's a nice, powerful hitter. The Marlins, as much as they stink right now, they are building the right foundation, and I think they'll eventually get to the point where they want to get. So, Yankees, Mets, again on today. Packed. Just packed. We got the Yankees on today, then we got football on as well. So, a ton to get to today. NFL as well. Bucks, Cowboys, 8:20 Eastern on NBC. All right, so let's get to the topics for today's podcast. A lot on deck, a lot of football as always. Today's going to be a lot of football. Tomorrow will be a lot of football. We got our game picks tomorrow, and then we got some fantasy football tomorrow. We'll have some fantasy football today as well, but I got my first round of game picks tomorrow. But today I'm going to give you my NFL power rankings. So I'm going to give you my top 10 power rankings. I will reveal them. I do them every single year. I usually say I'm going to pull them out at the end of the year. I usually tend to forget, but I do usually always look back. So I'll do the power rankings now when the Super Bowl and season's over. I usually look at them, see what teams maybe were on my list that weren't, or what teams were in, what teams that I maybe had lower on my list, finished out maybe top 3, which teams that I have high on my list had a bad year, and ultimately, did my list is accurate. So I always give you my power rankings. Probably going to be a lot of disagreements. I always say that. Everybody always tends to disagree. It's a very controversial topic because it's all opinionated. It's really, I do incorporate facts and numbers and stats, but I usually don't, I incorporate stats and all that stuff, but I usually don't, it's all opinionated. So we'll see how it all goes, but I'll give you my power rankings. Then I always do this for the Thursday night games because I got a lot of time to do it. I'm going to give you the keys to the game for the Buccaneers and Cowboys. I'll give you that preview. I'll give you the keys for the Bucs, and I'll give you the keys for the Cowboys, offensively, defensively. Cowboys offense and defensive keys of the game, Buccaneers offense and defensive keys of the game, and right after that, I'll give you my score, my game pick, and we'll kick off the 2021 NFL season with that, and then we'll get off to the New York Sports Update, and I'll do a special fantasy football thing today as well. Who start, sit, do more of that tomorrow, but if you got any guys playing tonight, which a lot of people I'm sure you have, a lot of big names in tonight's game, Dak, Zeke, Amari Cooper, that's on the Cowboys side of things. Maybe you have Bucs defense. I don't know if I would do that against the Cowboys offense, but maybe you do. Brady, Evans, a lot of Godwin, a lot of big names on the Buccaneers side of the ball as well. So really a lot of fantasy players that are going to be in play tonight. I got Amari Cooper in both leagues. I'm going against Dak in one of my leagues. So a lot of Cowboys and Buccaneers players to go in. I'll tell you whether or not you should play him and all that stuff. And we'll get to all that. So a ton of stuff to get to today. A lot of football and a lot of football tomorrow. And we know how the football season is. During the baseball season, it's the same way. It's a ton of baseball. And now we get to a ton of football. So Yankees and Mets also play today. Yankees, you got to find a way to avoid this 4-game sweep. You can't get a 4-game sweep. You got to find a way to avoid the 4-game sweep. And you got to find a way to win today and hope that you can build off of it because, tomorrow you open up a series against the Mets, and that's, no matter how good or bad those teams are, that's always a series that you always want to win. No matter if you're having a terrible year or a really good year, it's bragging rights. It's technically who's the best team in the city. So that's always a big series. And actually, it's a big series in general because the Mets are battling for a playoff spot still, and so are the Yankees. And, the Yankees yesterday lost home field advantage. So if the season were to end today, the Yankees would have to go to Boston now to play the wild card game. So we're still in the wild card, but instead of having home field advantage, we would have to go to Boston if the season would end today. So technically we're still in the playoffs, but we don't have home field advantage. Got to find a way to fight and get that back. All right, so with all that being said, let's get into it. A lot to get to today. A lot to get to. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So I do this every year. I give you my power rankings for the NFL. I'll do it for the MLB, NHL, and NBA as well. I do it for all sports every year, usually the day of the first game, whether that's an MLB. I'll do it on opening day for the MLB. I'll do it for opening night in hockey and basketball, and then I'll do it same thing tonight, first Thursday night game. I'll do it for this. So I'll give you my list of 10 teams. I don't do all 32. That's just too time consuming. I spend enough time doing all 10, and to be honest, I talk a lot about each of the teams on the 10 here, so I figure, it's I tend to do it the day of the game because of injuries, and we got word a little bit ago that there's some more injuries with the Ravens. So the Ravens, actually, I had to move them twice on my list because, number one, I did the Ravens, and I kind of forgot about the injuries at first, and I moved them back, and now we're getting news now that Gus Edwards possibly tore his ACL, and so is Marcus Peters. So now you're talking about Le'Veon Bell might be the starting running back over there in Baltimore because Hill's down, Gus Edwards down, and Dobbins is down. Those are your three running backs are now all down. Bell might actually get a big increased role. So they dropped in my list a ton. I was thinking about completely dropping them out of the top 10. I didn't yet. They're still, I think, a solid team, but without your number one cornerback, Marcus Peters, without your top three running backs, that roster is getting a little thin over there in Baltimore. But I don't want to just talk about Baltimore, but I'm just using it as an example. So this is before the season. How the season plays out, injuries and all that all is. I have an odd feeling it's probably going to get controversial once I get to the top three because my top three is probably what a lot of people don't agree with. But it's how I see it, and I believe that the top three is what I think it will be. So, like I said, I actually kind of broke my own little rule here when doing these. Every year I usually do the Super Bowl champion number one. This year I didn't do that. I just don't believe the Bucs are going to be number one again this year. I just don't know. I really don't believe if the Chiefs and Bucs would face tonight, I think the Chiefs would win. And I still stand by that. So, either way, let's get to it. We'll start from number 10, go to 1. Let's get going here. All right, so number 10, I have the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I was flipping between a couple teams, whether or not to put Washington in, Dallas. Never really crossed my radar screen, but it was kind of, on the outside looking in. I know some people think, oh, well, New England's got a revamped roster. I'm really not that scared of New England. I really don't think that they're going to have a great season like everyone's talking about. Everyone's like, oh, New England's back. They're doing this and that. So they went out and spent a lot of money. That means absolutely nothing. That means absolutely nothing. Oh, they went out and spent a lot of money. Yes, so do a lot of other teams. And guess what? Sometimes it doesn't work out. So I contemplated between a couple teams, but I go with Arizona here, and I'll tell you why. I'm very high on Arizona's offense. I really do believe that they have one of the better offenses in the league. I know a lot of people doubt, Kyler Murray, and what's their run game going to look like this year? Now James Conner's there, and Kenyon Drake's gone. Their offensive line's solid, but, what's the receiving core look like outside of DeAndre Hopkins? And I know there is a lot of questions, but when you look at this offense and you look at the production that they put up last season and even the year before that when Kyler Murray won Offensive Rookie of the Year, it's one of those things where I believe when this offense is healthy and when this offense is really going, it is one of the more lethal and better offenses out there. And I think the main reason why Arizona last season did not make the playoffs and ended up missing it was Kyler Murray went down, and in the biggest game of the season against the Rams, you had your backup quarterback going out there trying to get the win. That's not going to work. I believe Kyler Murray is a very good quarterback. I think he's top 15, top 10, definitely. DeAndre Hopkins, I said, when he's healthy, when he's going, he's the best receiver in the league. Their defense is the only thing that holds me back. I'm a little iffy on their defense. I would like to see more production out of Simmons this season. They put him in an interesting role last year. I would like to see them put him more in that flexible role where he can come off the edge, come off, be a linebacker, be a safety like he was at Clemson. We saw a lot last year with Justin Simmons. We saw too much last season with Isaiah Simmons we saw too much last year, him just being a linebacker, and that's not him. He's more flexible than that. Budda Baker, solid safety over there as well. I like the Cardinals. It's also a big year for the Cardinals, too. I don't think people realize how big of a year it is for the Cardinals. I mean, you can make the argument, if the Cardinals don't make the playoffs this year, Cliff Kingsbury's gone, and there could be more changes to this roster than maybe some of us expect. So, they're coming into the season with a lot at stake, and I believe Arizona Cardinals come in number 10. Alrighty, number 9 is the Baltimore Ravens. So, I'm telling you, 3 minutes before I started to do this podcast here, I had Baltimore at number, I think, 6. And then I moved them back to number 7. And then I heard the news of, number 8, I think. And then I heard the news of Gus Edwards more than likely tearing his ACL. And then Marcus Peters. And after that, I moved them down to number 9. So, right now, as it stands, I have Baltimore at number 9. I will keep you updated if I do decide to change that. Now, I like Baltimore's offense. I said this yesterday. I think when they get the run game going, it's a little goofy. I mean, we don't see teams nowadays run the old school offense that Baltimore does. But when Baltimore is getting going on offense, they're really solid. I've said this the longest time now about Baltimore. This is my only issue with Baltimore. They can run the ball, that's all great. You want to know my issue with Baltimore? Is when you go up against really good defenses, at the end of the day, are you going to be able to air the ball out downfield? And number 2, is Lamar Jackson going to be able to perform in the playoffs? Because so far in his career, I know they beat Tennessee last year in the wild card game, and I get that. But so far in his career, he's been a huge disappointment in the playoffs. And I just don't know if that's going to get any better this season. So I'll tell you this. Baltimore number 9, I would have them much higher. Injuries concern me. Gus Edwards now down, Dobbins down, Justice Hill down. Le'Veon Bell now might get thrust into the starting role. I don't think many people expected that going into the beginning of this year. I would have liked to see the odds on that, Le'Veon Bell being the starting running back for the Baltimore Ravens week 1, just goes to show you how crazy sports can be. I like their defense a lot, but like I said, Marcus Peters goes down. That's your number 1 cornerback, one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Baltimore really injured. I do like Mark Andrews. I'm not a huge fan of their receiving core, but I like Mark Andrews. Baltimore comes in number 9. Injuries concern me, but they do have a lot of talent still on the roster. Baltimore number 9. Number 8, I have the Seattle Seahawks. And similar to kind of what I was thinking with Dallas, is Seattle, their offense, that's all great. I mean, if Baltimore doesn't suffer the injuries, they don't suffer. I think Baltimore's better than the Seattle just because of their defense. Here's my issue with Seattle. They got an offense. They got a very good offense. Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, I think is one of the more underrated running backs in the league. I don't think a lot of people realize actually how good Chris Carson is. I think he gets overshadowed by DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson, and that passing game they got. Chris Carson's a huge part of that offense. I really like that run game. They restructured Dwayne Brown's contract. Their offensive line seemed to get a little bit better this offseason. You know my one concern with Seattle. It's their defense. Last season, their defense got toasted. And I know they got a lot of solid guys on the defense, Adams and, guys like that, and Bobby Wagner and all those guys. I understand they got some big names and some solid players on that defense. But for some reason last year, that defense was just not able to step up in big moments and was not able to make enough plays. If Seattle had a really good defense, I'm telling you, I think Seattle is a top 5 team in the league if they have a really solid defense. Their defense has not been the same since the Legion of Boom. I think their defense might show some improvements this season. They seem to address the offensive line. That was a major need. I like their offense. I like what they got going with Russell Wilson. His late season struggles concern me a little bit, but it's not going to make Seattle go from a division competitor to a below 500 team. They're still going to find ways to win because just how much talent's around him. But DK Metcalf, Lockett, Wilson, very underrated running back, and Chris Carson. I like their offense. Their defense, the only concern. But Seattle, a lot of talent as well in their roster coming in at number 8. They're also in a tough division too. So it ain't going to get easy. Spoiler, Los Angeles Rams also made the list. So there's 3 NFC West teams here. I did not include the Niners. I just don't feel right including just a team that quarterback's a question mark. Their defense is good, but their quarterback's still a question mark. And the receiving core is good, but it's not great. I feel more confident about Arizona's receiving core and their offense than I do San Francisco's, if you wonder why I did that. So number 8, Seattle Seahawks. Number 7, I have the Tennessee Titans. I've said this all offseason. I think after the Titans acquired Julio Jones, I think the Titans got one of the most talented offenses in the NFL. You can make the argument they got the best run offense in the NFL. You can make the argument they got the best running back in the NFL. You can make the argument they got one of the best top 10 quarterback in the NFL. You can make the argument they got 2 top 10 receivers in the NFL. When Tennessee went out and got Julio Jones, I said, this is arguably, I think, the most lethal offense you could say in the NFL. Maybe outside the Chiefs and the Bills and the Packers, I think you could put Tennessee right up there with teams like the Browns, and I think you could put them right up there with all these other teams. And I know we haven't seen them play a game. I understand that. This offense could stink for all we know. But in terms of Julio Jones, you know how I feel about Julio Jones. Everyone talks about the age with him. Look at his numbers. The numbers haven't gotten worse. I understand last season he had a little bit of a down year, but that's because he missed a lot of games with injuries. When that guy's healthy, Julio Jones is still one of the top receivers in the league. And A.J. Brown, young, up and coming, gonna be great as well. He's great right now. And another thing I want to say about Tennessee. This is the thing with Tennessee that I don't think a lot of people realize. Everyone's like, oh, well, A.J. Brown's not going to be as good this year because... No, I actually think Julio Jones and A.J. Brown are going to benefit. Because teams are now... Because Julio in Atlanta, he was the number 1 over there. All the attention was on Julio. Same thing with A.J. Brown in Tennessee. All the attention was on A.J. Brown. I know they had Corey Davis and stuff and Jonnu Smith sprinkled in there. But let's be honest here. A.J. Brown was the true number 1. Technically, the Tennessee Titans have 2 number 1 receivers in 1 receiving core. How are teams going to be able to manage that? Plus a solid tight end. And Kursky, I think his name is. I forget how to pronounce it. Apologize for that. But 2 number 1 receivers. I mean, a very lethal offense. Once again, one thing holding me back about Tennessee, though, is their defense. And they didn't do much to address it. If anything, they lost pieces this season. They did not get Adoree Jackson back. He's now with the New York Giants. Tennessee would be a top 5, top 4 team on my list if they had a really good defense. But they don't, and that's why I have them coming in number 7. Their defense concerns me. I've said this since they signed Julio Jones. I said this is a team that you got to watch out. I'm telling you, Super Bowl and Tennessee Titans in the same sentence is not outrageous. Look at the offense. Look at what they can do. The defense is a struggle. But if they could just find ways to just be competent, this Titans team has something. This Titans team could be special. I'm telling you right now. They come in number 7. All right, so this one was interesting. And I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to be completely honest. If the Rams didn't have as good as a defense as they do, Tennessee would be in front of the Rams. I'm not crazy about this whole Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and Matthew Stafford, a guy who won 5 games last season, is all of a sudden going to go lead this Rams team to a Super Bowl. I'm not buying into all that. What I am buying into is the fact that the Rams might have one of the best defenses we've seen in a really long time. And I think a team with a really good defense, you can get away with an average offense. Because not saying that the Rams are going to be average. I'm not saying that. Not saying the Rams are going to be average on their offense. I think they're going to be above average. But I think it's outrageous to say, the Rams are going to be a top 5 offense. Matthew Stafford's got to be an MVP candidate. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp have got to be in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year. No. Okay, first of all, you're without Cam Akers, who I thought was going to have a huge year. Nothing against Darrell Henderson, but Cam Akers, let's be honest here, he was the number 1. Okay? You do have Darrell Henderson, and he'll get his opportunity, and maybe he does turn out to be something great. I'm not saying he won't, but I would trust Cam Akers to be out there more than Darrell Henderson. And, that loss at running back, and just the whole thought process of having a quarterback who won, 5 games last season and missed the playoffs, now all of a sudden is going to come to the Rams and win, 15 games, win 14 games. And I understand it's a completely different offense and it's a completely different coaching staff and it's a change of scenery and it's a new building and you have better weapons around you. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, 2 solid receivers. Are they top 5? No, but they're 2 very consistent solid receivers. I get that. I'm just not crazy about the offense. What I am crazy about is the defense. This defense, we saw it last season, and I think we could very well see it again this year. Has a chance to be something really, really special. Just like Tennessee's offense, this defense is similar in the way it's just got talent and talent and talent and talent at each position. I mean, you look at Tennessee's offense, there's not many holes. Look at this defense, not many holes at all. Okay, I think the Rams have the best defense in the league. You could say the Bucs, that's okay, I wouldn't disagree, but I think this season the Rams probably will. Aaron Donald, I think, is the best pass rusher in the league. Jalen Ramsey, very good corner. I mean, just a very lethal defense. So I'm not saying that the Rams are going to be bad on offense. What I am saying, though, is the reason they're number 6 on my list and the reason the Rams are going to have a successful season, I think is going to be more so because of their defense and, most importantly, Aaron Donald stepping up and making big plays like he has his whole career. LA Rams coming at number 6. All right, number 5 here. We got a little bit more time here to go, so I got to speed up a little bit here. Number 5, I have the Cleveland Browns. Okay, and this might be a shocker because I'll tell you what, last season, I can tell you what, I probably did not have the Cleveland Browns in my top 10. Maybe I did, but I don't think I did. Maybe I did. Like I said, I'm not too sure. I actually didn't look. I did look last season after the Super Bowl, but I didn't look when I was making this list today. Sometimes I do, but I didn't. It changed so much, like from the Titans now being a top tier team, Ravens maybe from last year being really high to now being maybe not even in the top 10. But the Cleveland Browns, here's my thing. I always talk about balanced teams, right? I always talk about balanced teams, and you look at the list here, right? My one issue with the Cardinals, their defense is a little bit of an issue. My one issue with the Ravens is the injuries. My one issue with the Seahawks defense. Titans, it's defense. Rams, it's not really an issue. It's just I don't think the offense is going to be as good as the Browns offense, for example. I think the Browns have a better offense than the Rams. I don't think Matthew Stafford's going to go off this season for 35 touchdowns and 5 interceptions and throw for over 4,500 yards. I don't. Maybe he does, and I'm not trying to be negative. Maybe he does, but I just don't see it happening. Okay, I do think he'll improve because he's got more weapons, but either way, back to my point with the Browns. Browns are a very balanced team. What do the Browns have that are really good? Well, they got a very good coach in Kevin Stefanski, a guy who has completely taken this franchise, turned it upside down in about a year, and this was a team who was a touchdown pretty much away from being in the AFC Championship game last season against the Buffalo Bills for the right to go to the Super Bowl. So this Browns team last season was not far off at all from the Super Bowl. And as much as I'm iffy on Mayfield and get that, he had a good year last year, and I can't take that away from the guy. He had a very good season. And I like the Browns offense a lot. I think Nick Chubb, I'm not crazy about the receiving core, but they find ways to make it work. I think what's really big about that Browns offense is the fact that they have Nick Chubb, and then Kareem Hunt's another secret weapon as well. And I do like Austin Hooper. He's a veteran, a guy who's been around in the league, has had success. I like him a lot. I'm not crazy about Landry and Beckham coming off a torn ACL, but it is what it is. They've made it work. The Browns have a very solid offense. And once again, the Browns also have a really good defense. Myles Garrett and, Jadeveon Clowney to the mix, who, isn't what he once was, but he's still another force. He's still another guy that you got to worry about because Clowney's not terrible, but he's still another guy you're going to have to worry about. And one thing that I say about the Browns, I think not many people are paying attention because everyone's talking about the defensive front and Garrett, and that's all great. But the Browns secondary, especially Denzel Ward, can stay healthy. Very underrated and very good secondary on this Cleveland Browns team. So Browns with a very solid offense. Mayfield, Stefanski been working great. And then their defense with a lot of solid names as well. This was a team that was really just a couple points away from being, if the ball bounced a different way, you're talking about the Browns being in the AFC Championship game against Buffalo, and you're talking about a team being just, 2 years removed or 3 years removed from going 0-16 to now being a true threat. And I do believe now with all the injuries to the Ravens, I don't believe in the Steelers and the Bengals are rebuilding. That AFC North is the Browns to lose. Browns coming at number 5. All right, number 4, I have the Green Bay Packers. Okay, so Bucks, Bills, Chiefs, spoiler alert, no particular order. They're in my top 3. Hey, Packers, this is it for them. I think this is it for the Green Bay Packers. I've talked about it a little bit this offseason. I'm glad the drama's over. Good for Rodgers. He's playing again. I don't really care because, good. The Rodgers drama, that's all I say. I said this from the start. I did not want that stuff to leak into the regular season. I really didn't. That's the last thing we needed. I'm glad the Rodgers drama's over. I'm glad Rodgers and the Packers are happy. And I'm glad that they're all okay. Okay? But we've talked about the Packers every year being Super Bowl contenders, and they are, because they've got such a lethal offense, and their defense is solid. Not anything special, but it's solid. Jair Alexander, some guys like that. Zaire Smith, I believe, coming off the edge as well. Some solid guys. Every year, the Packers seem to lose in the NFC Championship game, though. So, in terms of Super Bowl, I don't know if they'll be able to get there, because every year it seems like they're so close and they never get there. But what I like about the Packers is this is it. Like, this is the last dance for the Packers. It's Rodgers and Adams. There's a very good chance Rodgers is gone after this year, and if Adams and them can't reach an agreement, well, Adams might be gone as well. So this is like a farewell for Green Bay and this Rodgers, and, this Rodgers, this has been his team. This is kind of it for them. And almost like I said with the Cardinals, this is a big year for the Packers, because if Rodgers is going to go out and either retire or go join another team, he wants to make it a good one. So I like the Packers offense a lot. Aaron Jones, Adams, Scantling. And as much as you could say you love or either hate Aaron Rodgers, I don't really care for him. I can care less if people hate him or love him. I'm not a Packer fan. They have nothing to do with, Packers could go on and win 17 games. I could care less. I'm just saying that with the Packers and their offense, very solid offense. Defense is good, not special, but their offense is definitely special. So coming in number 4, Green Bay Packers. All right, now my top 3. Now, number 3, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is where I broke my own rule, because I usually say after a team wins a championship in any sport, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, or hockey, you rank them number 1. College football, I do. If you look at the top 25, I've always said this. Whoever wins the championship should come in at number 1. That's not the case. Bam is number 1 every year. Whether they win it all or they don't, Bam is number 1. Now, Bama, in all fairness, they did come in at number 1 last season, and they were number 1, so I agree with that. And I've always said it, but I do break my own rule here, because I understand the Bucs won the Super Bowl, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong. My opinion, I had them missing the playoffs a little bit there. I mean, they were 7-5, and I was looking at their schedule, and I was saying, these are not automatic wins, and they go on to win the Super Bowl. So I got embarrassed. I was definitely embarrassed. I was talking about a team maybe missing the playoffs, and they went on to go win the Super Bowl. So I was wrong about that, no doubt about it. It's probably one of my worst takes, I would say, because I was so confident that it wasn't going to work, and they go on to win it all. And how they won it too convincingly, 31-9. It wasn't like it was close. It wasn't like they gave Mahomes a chance late in the game like the Niners did. They won it convincingly. But I'm just a little concerned about this Buccaneers roster as a whole. And I understand everyone's like, oh, well, they brought back all 22 players. Yeah, but guess what? All those 22 players, they got a year older. And they might not be as good as they once were. I mean, I'm just waiting for the moment that, and this isn't and I'm not saying I'm wishing for an injury to Brady. I'm just saying I'm waiting for the moment where I think reality smacks Brady and this Bucs team in the face, and it's getting to the point where it's like, hey, we're all old. I mean, this is just not really this team has got a lot of veterans and a lot of older guys on the team that very well are going to retire very soon. I just don't really believe this team has all the makings of a hangover. They're still celebrating. They just got their rings a couple weeks ago. It's like this team, or about a month or two ago, this team has all the makings of a hangover. And I believe that's what's going to happen. Now, am I saying they're going to go 5-12 and finish last in the division? No. But I do think they're going to have a little bit of a down year. I do probably think they'll probably make the playoffs just because they have Tom Brady and he just does that. But I don't really know if they're going to repeat it. I really don't. And I don't feel confident with new teams like the Bills and the Chiefs. And even if they get there, I feel confident that a team like the Bills or the Chiefs can knock them off. So number 3, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, they got a very good defense. Yes, their offense led by Tom Brady, the GOAT. I understand that. I'm just expecting a little bit of a hangover from last season. A little bit of a smack of reality in the Bucs' faces. Now, that I'm not going to say anything because I'm not going to say it. I'll say it when I make my pick. I'm not saying the Bucs are going to have a bad year. I'm just saying, are they the best team in the league? I don't think, right now I really don't. I understand they won a Super Bowl, but if the Chiefs-Bucs were the matchup right now, I would pick the Chiefs. That's just me. So number 3, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills, which means number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, here's my thing with the Bills. I mean, this was a team who was one game away from the Super Bowl. They win against the Chiefs at in Kansas City. They're in the Super Bowl against the Bucs. Simple as that. Not much else I gotta say. Very good team, a very deep team, good depth. I've always talked about. I mean, even if you look at the receiving core, I mean, you look at Diggs and Beasley and guys like that, but Gabriel Davis, another depth guy. They got a lot of good depth on this team. It's a Bills team rather who was very, very good starters, Allen, all that. They got good depth as well. And I don't need to say much about the Bills. We all know Josh Allen, he's going to be up there in the MVP, all those guys. A lot of really good players. Hey, it's just how it rolls with the Bills. I think Diggs and Allen, great. I know everyone's saying, oh, well, that was a one-year thing with Allen. It wasn't a one-year thing with Allen, I don't think. It's just the fact that you got Allen a number 1 receiver, and that's what he's capable of. It just goes to show you how much a number 1 receiver is, how important it is to a team. And then number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs, no surprise here. I mean, I think they're still the Super Bowl favorite. If you had to ask me today who is going to be my top 3 teams in the Super Bowl, it's got to be, I think, the Bills, Chiefs, and I tell you what, if the Titans can get that defense figured out, Titans are right up there as well. So that's my power rankings. Number 10, Arizona Cardinals. Number 9, it's the Baltimore Ravens. 8, Seattle Seahawks. 7, Tennessee Titans. 6, Los Angeles Rams. 5, it's the Cleveland Browns. 4, it's the Green Bay Packers. 3, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 2, it's the Buffalo Bills. And rounding out the list at number 1 is the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Chiefs will open up the season, I believe. The Bucs obviously open up the season tonight. Bills open up the season against Pittsburgh. And the Chiefs will open up the season against the Browns, which should actually be a pretty good game. A little bit of a rematch of the AFC divisional game last season. So that's it. That's my power rankings. It probably got more out of the blue when I got to the top 3. And like I said, I think if the Ravens... I think right now, as I'm sitting here right now, I have the Ravens in my top 10, but with all this Gus Edwards news and with all this Marcus Peters news, I think Washington very well could slip in as well. And I've said that about Washington. Very high on Washington as well this season. I get it, their quarterback's iffy, but they got good receivers. They got a very good running back, Antonio Gibson. And their defense, I think, has the capability to be the best defense in the league. Chase Young, a lot of really good guys on that team, led by Chase Young. Good coach, Ron Rivera, saw success in Carolina, took them to a Super Bowl, didn't win, but got them there. I understand they went 7-9 last season, but the fact that they still got to the playoffs and all that stuff, a very underrated Washington team. If Washington had a quarterback, they would be in my top 10, and they would actually be pretty high up there. It's just their quarterback. And not that I don't believe in Fitzmagic or Heineke, but it's just, I would rather take someone else with a better resume or even draft a guy than bring in just 2 guys that are, Fitzmagic, he's been around. I mean, he'll give you a couple good games, but a little inconsistent with him. We all know how Fitzmagic is. He plays really good 2 weeks, and then he's not very good. And then, a team signs him, plays good, really good. He plays really good the first season, and the next season it's kind of like, With the Jets learned that the hard way. So, but Washington, I think, is definitely a team that you got to keep an eye out for. Definitely a team you got to watch out for. Now, are they going to win the Super Bowl? No, I wouldn't say that, but definitely they're up there in terms of defense and just in terms of defense and in terms of just offense as well, because they got a very good receiving core and a very good running back. Antonio Gibson at running back, Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin as well in that receiving core. Terry McLaurin, we all know what he can do. Logan Thomas as well. Another good tight end. Used to play quarterback in college, switched over to tight end. He had a very solid year. Washington's a good team. It's just quarterback is just the only, weak spot. And it's not even that bad of a weak spot. It's not like they're rolling out their Tyrod Taylor like the Houston Texans are, but it's definitely their weakness, if I would to say so myself. So, either way, that's my power rankings. And like I said, at the end of the season, we'll pull them out and see if I was right or wrong or wherever they were. Do these every year. It's Cardinals, Ravens. I'll go from 10 to 1. Cardinals, Ravens, Seahawks, Titans, Rams, Browns, Packers, Bucks, Bills, and the Kansas City Chiefs, rounding it all out. I always say this. My hope is next season the Jets can come into my top 10. I don't think the Jets are a top 10 team in the league, nor do I think the Giants are as well. They're still a little ways away from that. But, hey, those are my top 10 teams. All right, coming up next here, I do this with all Thursday night games. I give you my keys of the game. So I'll do it for offense and defense for the Bucks and the Cowboys. And after that, I'll give you my game pick. I'll give you my game pick of who I think is going to win. Is it going to be the Bucks or the Cowboys? But yeah, this game opens up tonight. Pretty funny. Where the NFL season ended last year at Raymond James Stadium with the Bucks hoisting up the Lombardi, it's going to kick off this season. Just realized that. Forgot last season the Super Bowl was at Bucks Stadium, and today they'll kick it off at Raymond James Stadium. So we'll get to the keys of the game and my ultimate pick, Bucks. Geez, the spread for this game has changed. It came in I think 8, then it switched to 8.5, then it's 9 now. So the Bucks are only more and more favorites. I will tell you this before I make my game pick. I'm not telling you I'm going to make it. I do think it's going to be a close game. I will tell you that. But either way, we'll get to the keys of the game next. Alrighty, so Dallas Cowboys and Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. Dallas Cowboys and Buccaneers, as we all know, come into this game no record. Just the first game of the season. Buccaneers come in this game 9-point favorites. The over-under is set at 52. This game comes on today, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC. It's the kickoff for the 2021 NFL season, as the NFL is calling it their biggest season ever, as we all know, extended one more week. So 18 weeks, 17 games. Usually it's the normal 16 games, 17 weeks. Now this year it's 17 games, 18 weeks. So one extra week on the schedule, and the preseason was taken away one extra week. So football starts tonight. That's really how I see it. By the way, news just came through that first of all, Jamison Tyon's on the 10-day INL, and TJ Watt gets a $112 million deal. So he's the NFL's highest paid defensive player after agreeing to a 4-year, $112 million deal. So he was threatening to not play if he didn't get the deal. He does get the deal. So TJ Watt will be out there week 1 against Buffalo. I think the Bills will win that game if TJ Watt played or if he doesn't. But it does help their chances. But either way, back to the Dallas and the Bucks. So, as I talked about earlier, this is actually, I think, a pretty good game. Because I think as much as we make fun of the Cowboys and say, oh, well, every year, they have all this talent just to go 8-9 this season or whatever. They do have a lot of talent on the roster. I mean, I do believe they still have one of the better receiving corps in the league, Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb, in his second year, he really, I think you could see a big jump. Had a good year last year. You could really see a big jump. Another thing with CeeDee Lamb, too, he was put in a tough situation last year because the issue with it, the tough situation he was in last season was he had Dak for 5 games, and as a rookie receiver, and I always talked about this, a quarterback and receiver to get on page, it's always tough. And right as they started to hit their stride by week 5, Dak goes down with the ankle injury. And then Andy Dalton comes in, and then, CeeDee Lamb's got to find a way to build chemistry with Dalton. It was just a tough rookie year for him. Now, his numbers weren't bad, but definitely I could see a big year 2 jump out of him. And the Bucs as well. We all know, coming off a Super Bowl, I don't think they're going to do as much as they did last season. That's just me, but that's also a person who I'm not a big fan of Brady, so it might be a little biased towards the hate on Brady side of things, but I just don't really believe this team who got in last season. I'm not taking anything away from them. They had some really iffy parts last year. I just don't know about this team. I think they're going to, I'm not saying they're not going to be, I think they'll have a good year. I'm just saying, I don't think they're going to be, I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl again, if you follow what I'm saying. That's kind of how I see it. But either way, let's get to the keys of the game. So I'll start off with the Bucs because they're the home team. Why not? Defending champions. Why not? We just start off with the Bucs because they're the defending champions. They're the favorites. They're the home team. We'll just kick it off with them. All right, so we'll get to the offense, defense, keys of the game. We're already about 50 minutes into the video, so I'm going to be quick with these. And then throughout the season, I usually spend more time on these, but I'm going to be a little quicker with these because just because of timing. All right, so let's get to the keys of the game. So offensive keys of the game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think is simple. You got to air the ball out. I mean, that's the strength of your team. And I'm nothing to take away with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, who are actually two pretty solid running backs in that Buccaneers backfield. You got to air the ball out. Because if there's a strength in a very bad Cowboys defense, it's the defensive line. And that's a big part of their little bit success that they have with run defense. And Micah Parsons coming as a linebacker, really athletic, able to get up and in there, and really able to make plays. The disruptor. We all know. So that's how it kind of is with them. But with the Buccaneers, the weakest part of the Cowboys defense, because there's a lot of weaknesses. The Cowboys defense is more holes than Swiss cheese. A lot of holes in that Cowboys defense. I think the biggest hole is that secondary. And, I mean, that secondary is, they got some young guys, but it's a little young. It reminds a little bit like a Jets. It's going to be mixing and mashing, and there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and there might be moments where they make a really good play, but there might also be moments where there's some questionable decision-making and some questionable coverage, miscues, and things like that. So, I think if you're the Buccaneers, you got to feast on that secondary, and that's getting the ball to guys like Mike Evans and getting the ball to Chris Godwin. Even if you want to change a tempo, getting the ball to Antonio Brown for all I care, throw it to him. If you want to win this game, you got to air the ball out. Nothing against Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones, but if there is a weakness, if there is a strength, it's the run defense in Dallas. The weakness, the big hole, it's that secondary. So feast on that secondary if you really want to get going and get scoring. Buccaneers got to air the ball out. Also very good receivers. No matter what secondary you're going up against, very good receivers. All right, number two, I kind of have a general thing here for the defense for the Bucs. This is kind of my general thing. It's kind of stop the playmakers. And that might sound Captain Obvious, but, I mean, it's the truth. Because they have a lot of playmakers. And I say this a lot. The Buccaneers cannot the Buccaneers can't allow, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup to have huge games. Each of them to go off for 80, 90 receiving yards and a touchdown each. You can't allow that to happen. Or you can't allow one of them to go off for a really big game. Sure, maybe have them have average games, all three of them, because they're not going to completely shut them down. But you can't allow Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup to have massive games. And you got to find a way to contain Zeke. Because we saw what Zeke was last year. They relied on him a ton. He did not have a good year, had a really big down year. And Zeke's going into this season kind of with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he was up here in the running back rankings. Now he's kind of like back down here. He was probably like top 5, top 3 going into last year. Now he's like 7, 8. He's behind Chubb. He might even be behind Gibson and Aaron Jones. And he's got to find a way to get back up in that conversation of one of the best backs in the league. So he's coming in this season with a lot of energy, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. You got to find a way to stop the playmakers. Because this offense is lethal when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. We all know how lethal it can be. And Dak seems to be good to go on the shoulder. That seemed to just be a little bit of a worry. He seems to be good to go. So the Bucs got to find a way to calm the playmakers on Dallas's offense. You can't let Zeke go off for too much, and you can't let that three-headed monster of a receiving core go off either. Now, as a fan standpoint, I need Amari Cooper to have a big game for fantasy, so I'll be rooting for him. But from a Bucs standpoint, they need to find a way to contain this offense. Because if this offense catches fire, I don't care how good your defense is or how good your offense is. We all know how good this Dallas Cowboys offense can be when Dak's out there. We've seen it. And no matter if you hate the Cowboys or love them, we all know how good this offense can be. So you got to find a way to contain the playmakers. That's what I got for the Buccaneers. So offensive keys, get the ball deep. Defensive keys, contain the playmakers. All right, now for the Cowboys. Offensive keys of the game. I think this is simple. I think early on, you got to set the tempo and try to find a way to get Zeke going, which can then set up Amari Cooper in that receiving core. And this is what I also want to say too. I feel like this receiving core, this offense is hungry this year for the Dallas Cowboys. Because last season, they had a little bit of a down year on the offense side of the ball because Dak was out for most of the year. And Andy Dalton didn't do a terrible job, but we know what Andy Dalton is. I mean, he's not Dak Prescott. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's a quarterback that he can get you some wins, but he's not going to go out there and lead you to a playoff. He's not going to do that. It's not who Andy Dalton is. Andy Dalton's a backup. Andy Dalton's he's a high-end backup and a kind of a starter in the league. He's in between a high-end backup and a average to a little bit below average starter in the NFL. He's an average starter. So we saw what Andy Dalton was last season. I think this receiving core as well, I think this offense as a whole for the Cowboys is kind of coming into this year with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Because I think a lot of people are doubting the offense. I think a lot of people don't believe that Dak can come back and be the same guy. I don't think many people still believe in Zeke. And I got to admit myself, I passed up on him in fantasy many times. Or not many times, but in the first round. I did not take him in either of my leagues last year. He was my first pick in one of my leagues. So I understand where people are coming from with this. But if the Cowboys want to get going early and really quiet that Tampa Bay crowd and that Tampa Bay offense, you got to get going early. Get Zeke involved early, get a couple first downs, get comfortable, and then get that receiving game going. Get Dak really comfortable and back out there again in a game scenario, and then you can really get going. Because I believe Dak did not play one preseason game. So this is his first game action since the gruesome injury he suffered against the Giants in Week 5. And it's almost like a rookie quarterback in a way. Like, he's, I'm sure, going to have some jitters. I mean, that's a very terrible injury that he suffered. The bone was sticking out of his leg. That is not good. So he's kind of coming into this game. It might be a feeling out process a little bit early for him, not wanting to get hit. And most of all, you got that offensive line without Zach Martin, a big loss for the Cowboys. So you got to find a way to get Zeke going somehow, some way. And you got to get the ball as well to receivers. And most of all, too, you got to get the ball out quick. Because this offensive line, not great. The pass rush, got to get the ball out quick. Can't be waiting all day to have stuff open downfield. Got to get the ball out quick. Just smooth offensive tempo. Don't wait all day to try to throw a ball because you're going to get sacked because you got your best offensive lineman, he's out. So, you got to find a way to, contain and get going early. That's that. Just start off, get comfortable with the offense, and get going. Because this defense is very good. If you try to do too much, you're gonna pay for it. And then for the defense, I think it's simple. You just got to find a way to stop this passing game. Because last season they got toasted in the secondary, and we know Godwin and Evans and what they're capable of, and Brady the GOAT. You just got to find a way to stop the passing game. I mean, you can't let Brady today go off for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns and expect to win. Just can't happen. You got to find a way to stop the passing game. Because I'll tell you what, the Bucs, Bruce Arians, that coaching staff, they're drawing it up. They're like, oh, we see this. They see how much of this secondary, they see the weakness in the secondary. They see it. And the Cowboys see it as well. They got to find a way to, they got to find a way to, what's the word I'm looking for? Got to find a way to just stop them. I'm not saying stop Brady and let him throw 4 interceptions. I mean, please do. That'd make me happy. But I'm not saying to go out there and throw 4 interceptions, but you can't let him go off. You just can't. Because if you do that, we saw it last season. We've seen it in the past couple seasons with this Cowboys defense. If you do that, you're gonna lose. I don't care how good your offense is, you're gonna lose. So you got to find a way to stop the passing game. So keys to the game for the Cowboys is offense, start off smooth. Get the run game going, get some passes, and don't, with your offensive line out, and you'll see how the game's going, got to do some short passes as well, because this offensive line, without your best offensive lineman, might not be as strong as it usually is. So, just a little, watch out a little bit there. All right? So, Cowboys, just set the tempo early on offense, and just just smooth couple possessions. Get Dak really back in that NFL game action. And then for your secondary, just don't get toasted. So, that's simple as that. All right, now time for the game pick. By the way, Bucs keys of the game were toast the secondary and contain the playmakers on offense. Because we Cowboys got a lot of those. All right, now time for the game pick. Alrighty, so I gotta admit, I did go back and forth with this. I'm not kidding. Yesterday I did come to, I think, my final decision on who I was gonna pick. I'm not even kidding. I actually had the team that I end up picking to win this game, or I already know I'm picking. I'll tell you this. The other team I was originally going to pick, and then I kind of switched, and I ended up switching back. And then yesterday I kind of came to my final decision. I was like, you know what? I'm settling on this team. And I'm going to settle on this team for one reason only. All right, this is my game pick. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be, this 20-point victory for either side. But I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will get the win against the Dallas Cowboys. And I want to tell you why. Okay, I've said this so many times with the Cowboys. Their defense just concerns me. That's what left them out. That's the reason why I left them out of my power rankings. Their defense is too concerning. I think their defense could be the worst in the league. And you don't have to be that good of an offense to really crush this secondary. I think this is going to be a little bit more of a medium to high scoring game because it's the first game of the season. You're still knocking some of the rust off. I think it's going to be close, though. I will tell you this. I don't think the Buccaneers cover. I don't. I do think you got to give the Cowboys the +9. I don't think the Bucs cover, but I do think the Bucs win. 31-24, Bucs win. It's going to be by a touchdown. I think a touchdown late by Brady will get the job done, and the Buccaneers will win the first game. And I know how much I said stuff about them earlier, but it's just the defense. And the over-under of 53, I take the over on the over-under of 53. I think the Bucs win 31-24. I don't think they cover, though, but I do think they win. If the Cowboys had a better defense, Cowboys all day, because I think the Cowboys have the better offense. But the Bucs offense isn't that bad, but the Cowboys defense is really that bad. So I think the Bucs will win. And 55% of people, 61% of people think the Bucs will win. So, I'm in a boat with a lot of people. I'm in a boat with over 60% of NFL fans. I'm in the same boat. I don't think it's fair to say I don't think it's fair to give this game a 9-point favorite. I really don't. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a touchdown. I do truly believe a touchdown late is going to win this game. Simple as that. I just think the defense is just going to break. I think it's going to bend all game for the Bucs, and I think it's just going to break late. That's how I see it. Just don't trust the defense. Or the Cowboys, rather. I think the Bucs will win. All right, now let's get to fantasy. Let's get the fantasy football here to close out this podcast. By the way, for my game picks last season, these are my game picks last season. So, last year I went 189-90. So, I almost got to the 190 win mark, which is what I messed up. I thought I didn't get to 100, but I did. So last season, if I would have predicted the Super Bowl right, I would have been 190-89. But last season, I went 189 right picks and 90 wrong picks. So 189 right picks is pretty good. This year, I'm aiming for 200. I think that's a good goal. 200 right picks. Last season was 189. I think this season's a good goal to be 200, which would be 11 more than last season, which I think is achievable. Last season I did pretty well with my game picks. Week 1 of last year I went 10-6, and I actually did get the opening game right. I predicted the Chiefs game. So last season I did definitely pretty well with my game picks. I was 99 picks above 500. So I definitely had a pretty good year with the game picks last season. This year, so far I'm 0-0, as we all know, because there's been no games, but that will change tonight after tonight's game. All right, so for fantasy football, as I said, I have Amari Cooper going in both leagues. So my one league, I have Amari Cooper going, and in my other league, I have Amari Cooper. Now, I will tell you this. I don't think you should play either defense tonight. I really don't. Definitely not Cowboys defense. I wouldn't completely disagree if you play the Bucs defense, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a high-scoring game, 31-24. And like I said, I think it's going to be like a late touchdown to win. So I do like the fact that if you're going to put Amari Cooper in any of your leagues, I like CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. Now, Gallup, the only thing with Gallup is if you're going to put him in, I mean, I don't know what your team looks like. I mean, if you have options like A.J. Brown or Julio or Thielen and you decide to put in Gallup, I would disagree. Gallup might be a good flex option. I have Amari Cooper as my third receiver in my one league and my flex in my other league. So I definitely agree with starting Amari Cooper. And if you have Dak, go ahead. Start the offense players. I would not recommend starting defense because these are two solid offenses. And we all know how bad the Cowboys defense is. Bucs defense is very good, but the Cowboys offense is also very lethal. And we've seen that before. So definitely agree, though. If you have Amari Cooper like me, put him in. He stays healthy, and he's got his quarterback. He's out there. And I'm actually going against Dak in one of my leagues. So I'm hoping that Amari Cooper has a good game, but I don't want Dak to have a crazy good game because that's going to be more points. But we'll see how everything goes. But we'll see. All right, so that's fantasy football. Tomorrow will be my big start, sit, all that stuff. And as for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning 159-51. So there's actually an early game on today. So today I've got going, Will Smith didn't play, neither did Yadier Molina, so I just kind of kept that how it was. Matt Olson, Gene Segura, Austin Riley, Marcus Semien, Carlos Correa, Luke Voigt, Christian Yelich, Whit Merrifield, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, Jonathan Harrison, and Yadier Molina. Voigt's not in the lineup today. Matt Olson, Dylan Carlson, and Josh Harrison are all in games right now, are all playing in their games. Will Smith and Yadier Molina aren't, and Alex Reyes also played. But other than that, I don't got anyone else going. Some guys getting some day off. Thursdays, like I usually say, if there's going to be a day in baseball where it's going to be a little bit more of an off day, it's usually Thursday. And I made an acquisition today. So Tyler Rogers actually pitched yesterday, so he did his job. I added him, or I dropped him. He got me 7 points. That's what I wanted. So I dropped him, and I added Nestor Cortez today. So he's on the mound today against the Blue Jays. So I got Nestor Cortez and Ranger Suarez going for me in the pitching department. And, yeah. Other than that, though, no real updates on the injury front. Other than Cole hamstring played catch in the outfield prior to Thursday's game against Toronto. Max Goodman of SI.com reports. So, good news for Cole. So that's good. And let's get to baseball. I know a little out of sync here, but I wanted to get to fantasy football. All right, so let's get to the baseball games today and then yesterday. So yesterday, the A's won, Padres won, Brewers won, Nationals won, Orioles won, Cubs won, Cardinals won, Red Sox won, Tigers won, Twins won, Rangers won, Giants won, Mariners won. Mets lost yesterday 2-1, Marlins won, so Mets moved to 70-70 on the season, and the Yankees lost yesterday 6-3, so the Yankees moved to 78-61 on the season. Alrighty, as for today, we got the A's, White Sox. Right now, the A's are winning. So I'm not really going to give a game pick on that game because they're winning. I guess the A's will probably win. Cardinals won today as well against the Dodgers. Indians, Twins, I'll give Indians the win. We'll get to the Mets in a second. Phillies, Rockies, I'll give Phillies the win. Orioles, Royals, I'll give Orioles the win, actually. And Braves, Nationals, I'll give Braves the win. Mets, Marlins also play today. Mets come in this game 70-70. Marlins come in this game 58-81. This game goes on today 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time on Bally Sports Florida. And you also find it on SNY. Mets got Marcus Stroman on the mound. He's 9-12 with a 2.93 ERA. And the Marlins got Jesus Luzardo on the mound. He's 5-7 with a 7 ERA. The over/under for this game comes in at 7.5. And 70% of people think the Mets win. I do think the Mets win. Stroman's had a good season. I think they will win. Luzardo hasn't been great. Stroman's been pretty good. Yankees and Blue Jays play today. Yankees come in this game 70-61. Blue Jays come in this game 76-62. This game also comes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time on OB Network, like usual. And yes, network. The Blue Jays got Jose Berrios on the mound. Their trade deadline acquisition. He's 10-7 on the season with a 3.55 ERA. Very solid and underrated pitcher. And the Yankees got Nasty Nestor on the mound. Nestor Cortez. He's 2-2 with a 2.67 ERA. The over/under is 8.5 for this game. It's 50-50. 50% of people think the Yankees will win. It's a 50-50 matchup. I personally, until the Yankees prove otherwise, we're just not playing well enough for me to give them a win. We're just not. As I mentioned yesterday, and today again. It's not that we're not hitting. When we had 7 hits yesterday. And the Blue Jays had 7 hits as well. It's just we're not hitting in the situations. We're not getting situational hits. It's as simple as that. So we'll see. But that'll do it for the podcast today. football tonight against the Bucks, Cowboys, and Yankees, Blue Jays as well. Yankees got to snap this streak. Because if the Yankees continue to slide, not only is playoffs might be in the rear view, but you're talking about, home field advantage and all that stuff. So Yankees got to continue to, they got to find a way to win. Just find a way to win. You cannot let Toronto come in and lose 4 straight. You just can't do that. Got to find a way to win today. So Yankees tonight. Football returns tonight as well. Bucks, Cowboys at 8:20 Eastern. So it returns tonight. An actual NFL game that counts tonight, which should be great. But that'll do it. Enjoy the football game tonight. Tomorrow will be my game picks, fantasy, all that good stuff. Tomorrow's going to be a packed day. Then we head into the weekend. One more day until the weekend. And then NFL football is on tonight. And then also, it all kicks off. The rest of the league kicks off Sunday. And then the Raiders will cap it off on Monday night. Super, super excited. Tonight, Bucks, Cowboys. Should be good. And, that'll do it. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching.